Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap up for Friday, December 8th, 2017. The WNW 312 top story: Donald Trump makes recognizes Jerusalem as Israel's capital. It's just unbelievable, earth shaking biblical news. Trump recognizes Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Middle East prepares for violence. This is just really quite unbelievable. Jordan, Egypt, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and the Arab League have spoken out against this plan. The plan to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Even Iran, the Shias, who hate the Sunnis, even Iran hates this move. Turkey said that Erdogan said this is a fire without end, or fire with no end. Trump says this is a long overdue step to the advancement of the peace process. You can see his other words. And this is how I didn't know. Every major institution of the Israeli government is located in Jerusalem already. Already located in Jerusalem, every institution, not in Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv is their actual capital, but not really. This all comes down to East Jerusalem and Jerusalem being an undivided capital of Israel. And back in 1967, Israel basically made a counterattack from the attack that the Arab world put on Israel to try to knock it out. And it ended up taking, in 67, East Jerusalem and the Golan Heights, which is strategic land. There was a big battle and Six-Day War, and Israel won. And they are not relinquishing control of East Jerusalem. Now, the Palestinians always wanted to divide Jerusalem into two, but Israel says no. And now Trump is throwing his support clearly behind Israel. And I just wonder if this is biblical. And let me just give you my thoughts on this. And I don't have any other really sources saying this, but it goes back to the humble yourself in front of the Lord, the inauguration. I mean, it was overt. They were mentioning Jesus Christ. He had, Franklin Graham there. He had all kinds of preachers there. He was mentioning, having the nation coming back to God. It was very overt. Very humble yourself in front of the Lord, and He will heal your lands. And I just wonder if this isn't more of a biblical play. Those who bless Israel will be blessed. Those who curse Israel will be cursed. And is Trump doing this in a biblical way to gain God's favor? Certainly no other country on earth would have tried this. And just to let you know, this isn't some crazy out of left field thing. I mean, at least the last three presidents and many more, maybe a dozen U.S. presidents have all said, oh yeah, we'll make Jerusalem Israel's capital. Clinton and Bush, 43, and Obama all had intimated and said that we should make Jerusalem Israel's capital. They didn't because they were trying to work out a peace deal with the Palestinians and they didn't want to inflame them. But it's too late. I mean, now the Middle East is inflamed. But Trump's saying, hey, tough. We have been basically putting this off for a long time, trying to get a peace deal, and we haven't gotten a peace deal, so we're going to move on and try a new approach. The new approach has garnered this. Hamas-linked group takes credit for rockets fired on Israel after Trump's speech, where he basically said that they're recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. I just want you to note something, the rockets. We had this big thing in 2014 where they were firing rockets from the Gaza Strip. And they were firing them from hospitals in heavily populated areas, residential areas, markets, schools. They were saying, Hamas and other people said, well, just so tightly packed there, they have to fire those rockets. Lie. Total lie. They wanted to fire those rockets for a body count. And here is a blow up of a section of Gaza. And if you look right here is the armistice line. The 1950 armistice is one of the borders of Gaza Strip. There's a Mediterranean Sea right here. But if you look closely here, and you can blow this up on Google Maps, this is wide open spaces, farm ground, wide open spaces, farm ground. This is more wide open spaces over in here, wide open spaces. There's farm ground on the other side of the armistice line. There's farm ground on this side. Listen, if they want to fire rockets into Israel, they can, move it up here and put it in the wide open spaces and not firing from the center of these towns and firing from heavily populated areas. But not Hamas. Hamas fires these rockets not from the farm ground in this area and other open area spaces. No, they fire them from heavily populated areas so they can gain a body count. So the world will go, oh wow, look at the Israelis are firing on Hamas and they're killing innocent civilians. Listen, if Hamas wants to take on the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, they should move them up to the front line, but put their people behind them like the Israelis do, and have at it. But they don't want to do that. So expect, I hope this doesn't happen, but expect more rocket attacks, and they'll be firing the rockets from schools and hospitals and markets and heavily populated residential areas to invite the Israeli response to knock out the missiles and get them to quit shooting the missiles into Israel and try to kill Israeli civilians. And so they can get a big body count. So this is, at any rate, this is going to spark probably some more violence. A lot of folks in the Trump administration, including Donald Rumsfeld, says, they're going to get over it. But I just wonder if this is just a plan by Donald Trump to gain God's favor. He's going to bless Israel by supporting them and saying, yes, we will recognize your capital in Jerusalem. You don't have to divide it. You don't have to give up the East Jerusalem to the Palestinians. That's pretty much what that says. Now, maybe they will have the capital there and still divide the city. I don't think so, but who knows? Who knows? The Mueller investigation. This is just something out of Bloomberg. The Bloomberg, former mayor of New York. It's his company's named after that. Mueller investigation just got some insurance. They're just like foaming at the mouth at this. Just got some insurance. It's like they don't have a journalist over there. They can't see or report on the massive conflicts of interests with Robert Mueller and James Comey, and not a single shred of evidence that has tied the Trump administration to any Russian collusion, unlike Hillary Clinton and her private servers and her taking treasonous bribes through a global charity fraud and the millions of dollars handed over to the Clinton Foundation, and her husband making speeches in Russia, paid for by bankers involved in the Uranium One deal that Mueller let go through. But I digress. So we come up here to the what the story says. Just got some insurance, and it's the Flynn plea makes it difficult for Trump to can the special counsel without inviting charges of a cover-up and sparking a constitutional crisis. Yes, a cover-up of a totally phony and bogus investigation that was started. Now we find out. Started by a FISA warrant that was compiled, that was gotten through information through this phony Trump dossier that was paid for by the DNC, and now we know the DNC was controlled by Hillary Clinton. And this is why I added this down here, the mainstream media omitting major conflicts and facts and cheerleading the fraud of the Mueller and the FBI Clinton investigation. They are coming down tooth and nail on Flynn with, I think, which is an entrapment plea deal, and ruining him financially and saying we're going to put your kid in jail along with you, so he comes up with some sort of a plea deal. Then on top of it, we find out that according to Jim Jordan, Representative Jim Jordan, you should see it. It's in my news section. He's got Christopher Wray, the new FBI director, in front of him, and he's saying, "Hey, you know what I think happened? I think you fired this Peter Strzok, I should say, Peter Strzok, who was a lead investigator, counterintelligence expert, that kind of thing. I think you fired him not because he put out anti-Trump tweets to his girlfriend, because if you got rid of all the anti-Trump people on your Mueller investigation special prosecutor team, there wouldn't be anybody left because it's totally biased." But this is what Representative Jim Jordan says. He says, "I think you fired Strzok because he basically got this phony dossier, which is nothing more than opposition research paid for by Hillary Clinton and the Democrats, and dressed it up to make it look like counterintelligence, and then took it to the FISA court, and this was the basis of your investigation." That's a phony investigation, folks. You can't take the opposition research, which is a bunch of lies paid for by Hillary Clinton and the DNC, give it to the FBI, and they go, wow, there's some crime here, when it's totally bogus and lied and proven completely disqualified. None of this stuff in is true. And that's what kind of a banana republic we have. And we have these weasels at Bloomberg talking about Mueller's investigation just got some insurance. These are the people that want you to think that they are fair arbiters of the truth. That's their power. And I'm going to talk more about that at the end of the newscast. They're not fair arbiters of the truth. This was a congressional hearing that happened just today or yesterday, and where Jim Jordan is ripping Wray, who won't even talk about it. Just tell me if Strzok, Peter Strzok, prepared this opposition research and fluffed it up to make it look like some sort of FBI intelligence on the Trump incoming Trump administration. Yeah, no, I can't talk about that. Of course you can't talk about that. It's absolutely outrageous. It's outrageous, and it's Banana Republic-ish, and you wonder why this headline, Trump White House weighing plans for private spies to counter deep state enemies. This is from The Intercept. This is Glenn Greenwald. And listen to this. This is out of the story. John R. McGuire, if he's former CIA, claims National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster, in coordination with a top official at the National Security Agency, authorized surveillance of Steve Bannon and Trump family members, including Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump. Can you believe that? McMaster is still working for Donald Trump. Now, I don't know if this is, keep your enemies close, keep your friends close and your enemies closer or whatever, but this is the kind of thing that's going on right now, this war, this quiet, silent war going on between the forces of Donald Trump and the incoming administration. And he has a lot of friends in the military, Donald Trump. Don't think he's alone. There's a lot of people, as Gregory Mannarino from TraderChoice.net says, is that there's a lot of people on the other side of this trade that want to see Trump succeed. The people that want the tax cuts, the people that don't want the open borders, the people that don't want all the millions of Muslim refugees, all men coming in here, radical Islamics, no screening, no way to screen them, and omitting the Christians from the Middle East who are actually being persecuted and murdered by the radical Islamic terrorists. And not all Muslims are radical, but there are a percentage of them that certainly are. And they will kill Christians just as well as their own Muslim people for not being radical like they are. But, this is in this story, in the Intercept story about Donald Trump, plans of private spies to counter the deep state. I mean, he's talking about Mike Pompeo. And in the story, they have some quote where they say, Pompeo can't trust his own people inside the CIA. Wow. It's just really unbelievable. This is the kind of stuff that's going on right now in the U.S. government. Phony investigations by Mueller. The mainstream media won't even talk about all the bias and conflicts of interest. I mean, listen, I'm going to sum it up for you, too. These people have committed, many people in the Obama administration, high ups, and I'm not talking about the rank and file in the FBI. I'm talking about high ups in the FBI, high up in the CIA, high up in the Obama administration, and I think including all the way to President Obama himself. These people committed high crimes and misdemeanors. They committed fraud. They committed treason. They sold out the country. It was not just, Uranium One. I don't want to get all into that, but it being sold to the Russians, not just a Russian business. I mean, anything with uranium is owned by Russia, the government of Russia. And this is a big sellout. And a lot of people just thought, well, Hillary's going to win. This stupid guy Trump, doesn't have a chance. Hillary's going to win, and the fraud and the crime would continue. Well, that didn't happen. And I think they are panicking. I think Mueller is worried that he is going to be named and go to jail. Remember, he had this big investigation, and they got bribery, and they have racketeering, extortion, Russian spies, gaining our Uranium One. They actually did get Uranium One. They got 20% of our uranium production. It actually happened. And, James Comey and, how, he exonerated Hillary Clinton and, Peter Strzok, who changed the wording, so it wouldn't have the legal term that she had, that she was extremely careless. He put that in there. That Hillary Clinton should have gone to jail. James Comey exonerated her before he interviewed her. That's obstruction of justice. I mean, these people committed major crimes. This is just what we know about. These people committed major crimes. I mean, major presidents, attorney generals, and plural. I'm talking about it. You know, two heads of the DNC, two FBI directors, two presidents, two secretaries of state, two attorney generals, all Democrats in the Obama administration. These people committed crime, and all their underlings. This is unbelievable. Major high up people in the FBI committed crimes, treason. And they're freaking out. And the mainstream media has been the people helping them and and lying by omission. And I remember, their power is to make you think. I've just seen a lot of these promos now with Lester Holt. Lester Holt out in the field and Lester Holt this. And I'm not jealous of him. I'm just saying all of a sudden they have these this image campaign for Lester Holt and other news people to make you think he's on your side. He's never going to be biased or Democrat or liberal or spin things or lie by omission. Oh, he'd never do that. He's Lester Holt. That's their power. Old-timey media. It's a laughingstock. And I point it out here all the time with USA Today. I don't think Franken should step down, frankly. I think they ought to have an investigation. I think they ought to, I don't think they ought to allow people just to make claims and then say, well, you have to step down. But I think what they're going to try to do, I think in his case there's pictures, and I think the women, it's fairly recent and whatever, but I don't think I think there will be an investigation. But he's stepping down. And I think this is a ploy for them to, go after Roy Moore and go after Donald Trump, and you should step down. Women made some accusations. I think they're bogus. I think the accusations, listen, you can't sexually harass people, but the charges have to be true. They have to be true. And particularly with Roy Moore, with his two major people have major problems with their stories. The one with the yearbook that Gloria Allred will not come out and show that yearbook. Her attorney, the attorney in the case, that Roy Moore says is a forgery. He signed the yearbook supposedly. And the other one is a woman said she was 14 years old. Major story flaws in her story. She ended up moving 10 days after supposedly she met Roy Moore, moved in with her daddy. She said she met Roy Moore around the corner, which was a mile away. There's just a lot of holes in her story as well. And none of this stuff came up in any of the other 8 elections, statewide and local elections that Roy Moore had, including the primary where the Republicans spent $32 million trying to knock Roy Moore, now the GOP candidate in the special election to replace Jeff Sessions in Alabama. Now they spent all this money trying to knock him out of the box, and they couldn't do it. Now they come up with these allegations of sexual harassment, which they have to be true, and I don't think they are. And he's suing the two major people that have the best supposedly cases, but they have lots of flaws in their stories, which untruthful in one, untruthful in all. Fires out in California. Santa Ana winds. I mean, just look at the devastation. The fires. The firefighters are getting tired. The winds have picked up. They're blowing. Some of them have gotten up to 80 and 90 miles. That just fans the flames. And celebrities are moving out of their homes, or they're evacuating in very short notice, grabbing a few things and leaving. My friend Dane Wigington says that listen, this is you can blame geoengineering for a lot of this. A lot of this is geoengineering. Can you imagine that? Nobody will touch this. And incidentally, I want to bring this up. The Dane Wigington piece on YouTube got 34,000 views. And boy, YouTube, in my humble opinion, and I can't prove this, was messing with this video. It got picked up by an inordinate amount of sites. And I mean picked up like embedded, not stolen. But it also gets stolen too, which adds to the view count. But just the embed, it was like a dozen or so sites picked it up. At one point, there were 800 comments. 15 minutes later, there was 200 comments. At one point, there was 30,000 views. A little later, there was 28,000 views. And then the views never got more than 33,000. Dane Wigington says that's typical of YouTube. And I think it's typical of them trying to legitimize a story, to de-emphasize it, to make youth seem that well, it's not that many people viewed it. Not that many people, or why only 33,000 people saw it, and there's not that many comments. Well, the comments have all virtually stopped. At one point we had 400 comments, then we went down to 200 comments, then we had 341 comments, and for I don't know 20 hours we had nobody else commenting. They stopped the comments, they erased comments. I think they thumped the view count. I think a lot more people saw it. But this fire that he talks about, and these, nobody will talk about the biggest problem in climate change is not the rainforest, and we've done damage according to Dane Reagington, but the biggest problem, the biggest slice of the pie, is geoengineering, the spraying. The spraying is constantly. Raging 150 square mile Thomas fire prompts mandatory evacuations in Santa Barbara County. This is from KTLA. At least 150 structures have been destroyed. At least 1,200 structures remain threatened. It's Hollywood is on fire. Yeah, Chelsea Handler, coming out and some tweet, some stupid. This is why she doesn't have a show anymore. Well, it feels like Donald Trump is burning down the world. Stupid. I mean, these celebrities are just ignorant people, and they shouldn't even have a Twitter account. Something else that came out here, banned. This is the Russian Winter Olympic team banned, but it's not as bad as what it says here. I mean, you see this story and think, Russia finally gets what it deserves. And I thought maybe it was something to do with Syria or something like that when I first heard about this. This is the IOC majestically stood up to Russian President Vladimir Putin and defied him. I've covered Olympics since the 1984 Olympics. This is what the writer says. His name is not Jarrett Bell. This is Christine Brennan. And I never thought I'd see this. And basically what the IOC, the International Olympic Committee board under President Thomas Bach, banned Russia from the 2018 Winter Olympics because of state-sponsored doping. State-sponsored doping, but will allow Russian athletes who meet strict conditions to compete. So, in other words, they didn't really ban them. They just banned them until they're tested. And I think, listen, if Russia's doing this, then anybody else that even remotely was caught doping ought to face the same restrictions Russia has. I mean, make it fair. Make everybody submit to tests before they compete. So Russia really isn't. So this is very misleading. Russia really isn't banned. They're banned, I believe, unless they can pass a test. If they pass, a doping test, I guess they're going to be able to compete. So they're not banned like a lot of people think. I don't think they ought to be doing that with the Olympics. If it's a hint of political, them with the war in Syria and that kind of thing, Iran and Russia being on the same team, so to speak. But they say it's because of doping. We'll see. I want to bring up this right here. I don't know if this is ding, 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 ringing the bell at the top when they're saying that, we can have Dow 30,000. Don't rule it out. I just wonder if that is the top of the market. Gregory Mannarino has, from TradersChoice.net, has talked to me all week long about, wow, they're buying the bond market. They're buying it in the morning. If it cracks in the afternoon, they're going in and buying the bond market. The powers that be, the Exchange Stabilization Fund, the Fed, whoever, central banks, they're not letting the market crack. They are keeping it propped up, and the key, according to Gregory Mannarino, is the bond market. He says, I've never seen it like this, he says. He's a professional trader. Never seen them buying the bond market like they're buying it now. In which, if they don't buy the bond market, the reason why they're doing that is because it's selling off and interest rates could spike. And, the whole markets could come down. So when they buy the bonds to keep the interest rates from going up, it's just unbelievable. Which is no way to run a government. And this is just, you see these headlines, and you think, oh, wow, well, they got another deal for 2 weeks. But this frightens me. When we're running a government and a situation that governs, a government that governs over more than 300 million people here in America, and you see headlines like, wow, showdown averted for now. House approves a 2-week extension of government funding. Nancy Pelosi, the minority leader in the House, is saying, we don't want a government shutdown, but that's what they're implying. a government shutdown. Of course, the government really doesn't shut down. Social Security checks get sent out. The military still has to come to work. This is just stuff that's not essential services. But still, the mainstream media will likely try to blame it on the Republicans. I don't think that'll work. But that's what's going on. Another thing that I'm seeing is, and remember when Cliff High came on? He came on at least in June of this year. And I think before he said it also because Bitcoin was going to go up. But I have him on USA Watchdog. I don't know where else he was. But USA Watchdog in June of 2017 saying, I think Bitcoin are the predictive linguistics. Bitcoin's going to top out at February, going to hit $13,800 sometime in February of 2018. Well, Cliff High was wrong and early. It shot up to $19,000 and dropped back and then plunges down to 15 and change. Now it's back up to $18,000. And to me, some people say, well, this is a mania. I don't think it's a mania. I think it's a panic. I think it's a fiat currency panic. A lot of people look at Bitcoin as a transaction currency. Some people are looking at it like a store of wealth. It is not a debt instrument, Bitcoin. Call it whatever you will. It's not mined. It's created. There's no coin. It's a code. But listen, this is competing with fiat currency. And then I'm reading about this CME, Chicago Mercantile Exchange, wanting to have a futures on Bitcoin. And they haven't really thought this out very well. Bitcoin is decentralized. They don't have any Bitcoin. They're not going to trade any Bitcoin on the futures. They're not going to have any. It's like the charade of LBMA and COMEX would say at least supposedly have some deliverable gold and silver. But in this case, they won't have any Bitcoin. Bitcoin trades around the clock 24/7. And, bankers are like, whoa, this could hurt us. This could run past us, and it will. And, remember Rob Kirby came out and was explaining how they're going to have this exchange, and they're going to try to control the price of Bitcoin, according to Rob Kirby, and says this could explode in their face. I think it could go the other way. Bitcoin could go way higher. And I think it's, you have to ask yourself two things. Why are people panicking into Bitcoin? It can't just be greed. I think it's not a mania. I think it's a panic. I think people are worried. Why are they panicking now? And why are they, what do they see? And there's some pretty big money going into Bitcoin at as I do this is about 18,000 per unit, and so that just does not make me feel all warm and fuzzy. I don't think it's a mania. There are people out there saying it's going to go a lot higher. I can't really argue with that. Cliff High said it was going to hit this a few months from now. I'd say he's right on target and early. And he will be coming back. I'm trying to work Cliff High to come back on. He'll have a big, rollout, big report coming up, hopefully in the next few weeks. But we'll see about that. But this makes me nervous about how they're running the government, about these phony investigations, about this, Professor Mark Skidmore talking about the $21 trillion that's missing between 2015 and 1998. $21 trillion missing from the federal budget. Whoever's running the country, it ain't the president and Congress if they can oversee and overrule and funnel in and out of the government in the last, since 1990, 20 years or so, 19 years or 15, so 17 years, 21 trillion. That's just what we know about two, DOD, Department of Defense, and Housing and Urban Development, HUD. So it makes me feel weird. And stories like this also, and this is the mainstream media doesn't touch this story. Now, if this was Republicans that did this, you'd never hear the end of it. But this is so what? Not in USA Today. Mainstream press isn't really covering it. This is this big fight with Donald Trump and Mulvaney. He wanted to put in there, and the other acting director was suing. And I'm the rightful president. Come on, Trump was the guy to put in Mulvaney. And then we find out the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau reportedly funneled billions into secret Democrat slush fund, consultant claims. Now, think about this now. They only hired Democrats. They would not hire Republicans. And here's the real clincher: fund a large portion of the more than $5 billion in penalties collected, or some people would say shook down from banks, collected from defendants to community organizations aligned with Democrats, a slush fund by any other name. This was Hiawatha's Pocahontas. Hiawatha's little brainchild, and it had no oversight, no government oversight whatsoever, no congressional oversight, no oversight by anybody. No oversight. So they'd shake down banks and financial institutions with fines, and then they'd funnel them off to Black Lives Matter and Antifa or whoever, I don't know, and to all these different far left Democrat lefty groups. I mean, it was a slush fund because, and why? Because the Democrats don't have any money. Now think about this. Hillary Clinton took over the DNC. Why? How could she do that? The Democrats were facing bankruptcy. Hillary Clinton wrote a check and said, okay, I'm going to take over because you don't have any money. This was nothing more than a scam to raise money. Unbelievable. And this isn't on the mainstream press. They're not all over this, asking Elizabeth Warren, Hiawatha, Pocahontas. And listen, she gamed Harvard. She gamed the system by claiming to be a Native American when she's never proved that, and she's never proven that. I mean, 23andMe or Ancestry.com, take a little swab and tell me you're Cherokee or Native American heritage. She won't do it because she's not a Native American. She gamed the system, and yet she became a senator. Can you imagine a Republican doing that? Game the system, lying about being a Native American. It's okay. She gamed the system. She put herself in a protected class at Harvard. But this CFPB funneling, I mean, this is our government, folks, and this got a big yawn from the mainstream media. USA Today didn't cover this. Billions into secret Democrat slush fund with no congressional oversight, fines and penalties on banks. And listen, that banks aren't my favorite people, but you can't shake them down and rob them. And then you have this. This is the gall. This is on USA Today. This is on the back page of USA Today. This is unbelievable. How do you know if a news story is real? Talking about fake news. They have the gall to talk and have a list of fake news points. They have the gall of sourcing and all this other total BS. And they wouldn't cover this story. They did not cover this story. They did not cover the conflicts of the Mueller investigation. They did not cover the Strzok using a phony dossier to get a FISA warrant. They did not cover the Hillary Clinton with her unprotected servers and destroying 33,000 emails and to collect treasonous bribes through her global charity fraud called the Clinton Foundation. And they have the gall to come out and talk about fake news and what's real. Absolutely unbelievable. And then they have this kind of op-ed with a bunch of bogus liberal, ultra left-wing, progressive / Marxist. Let's call it what it is. Make it impossible to fire Robert Mueller. And these people come up with these names. Check out this name. You think that, here's one. This is partly of the Noah Bookbinder, the executive director at Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics, the Democrats. More Democrat. Nora Edson, fellow senior at Brookings Institute, Democrat. Also, Caroline Frederickson, president of the American Constitution Society. These people hate the Constitution. Another progressive. Let's call it what it is. Hey, let's call it what it is. Would you like to do that? Progressive. Nope. A Marxist. Pro-choice, pro-abortion, Planned Parenthood, planned abortion hoods, baby part seller, affirmative action, preferential treatment. Are you with me? The Democrats always have to call something else to make it sound better than the garbage that it is. And here is the USA Today, and again, I'm circling back to why is the USA Today pulling this, here's how you tell if the news stories are real. Oh, you mean lying by omission? That's not a fake news? You mean having a political slant and packing the paper with negative Trump stories? Oh, you mean that's real news? thought shaping, lying by omission, not covering major news stories that any journalist should cover. If this was a Republican, they would cover the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, a slush fund, not a story to the USA Today. But they want to tell you what fake news is. Because, as I've told you, now you think about this. This is why these Lester Holt profile pieces are being done about Lester Holt. He has everything but an S on his chest and a Superman cape. To make you believe, this is their power. You have to believe that what they tell you is the truth. That the mainstream press is a fair arbiter of the truth. And as I point out every week in the weekly news wrap-up, almost every week, the hypocrisy, the lies, the unbelievable lies by omission, the left-out facts, the stories that they won't cover, that's just not a story to them because they don't like the political narrative. That is fake news. In my opinion, USA Today is fake news, and they're dying. And the rest of the mainstream media is dying. This whole Matt Lauer thing, they had too much concentration of power. And I'm not against Matt Lauer. I don't want to judge him or trash him. I'm just telling you that this is all these media types getting dunked. And incidentally, Cliff High, that was another prediction of Cliff High made sometime in the summer. He said, the mainstream media is going to take a real hit from sexual connotations. It could be sexual harassment or people covering it up or pedophilia or whatever. But, the mainstream press and the mainstream media, and I think part of that you can include that the communicated Hollywood, he said, you're going to lose about a third of the mainstream press. And boy, what's happened? Woo! I also had somebody write me and say that my newscast was just too negative. And you know what? They were right. It was too negative. What I want to try to get across is to inform people, because when you don't know what's going on, it makes you afraid. And I don't want people to be afraid. I want them to be informed. And there's some good news about what's going on. A lot of this stuff is coming out. It's being revealed. That's why the fight inside government is so vicious. Reason why Trump is trying to start his own spy agency, because he can't trust the spy agencies he has. They're at war with him. They don't want to be revealed. They know they've done wrong. They know a lot of them are going to go to jail. So that's the good news, that this is being revealed. I think the good news is I think Trump's trying to gain favor with God. He's supporting Israel. And if you bless Israel, you will be blessed. And it says that in Genesis. Right from the beginning, I think it's the 12th chapter, right? Those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And so I think Trump is just being bold. He definitely is being overt with his reference to God, to Christ, in his Thanksgiving message, and now with this thing with Jerusalem. And listen, a lot of presidents have promised to do that, so he's not way out there. The last three for sure, and many others have promised to move to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. And so the revealing of this stuff is to me maddening. The non-revealing of it, the omitting of facts, is maddening. I think the reason why the USA Today isn't doing well is stock price has been cut in half. And I like a lot of these other places. I mean, ABC's been laying off people at ESPN. Hollywood is going through major downsizing. The other networks are going through major downsizing. I think all that is because their product isn't good. People don't believe it. People have lost trust in them. And there's no wonder. People aren't that stupid. I mean, I used to tell people that, people won't know that your shot had foreground treatment, or it was perfectly in focus, or you had great writing and perfect, editing and, very good storytelling and all that. They will just know whether it's good or whether it's bad. That's all. They'll just know whether it's good or bad. People aren't that stupid. They just aren't. They may not know all the technical terms of television and presentation and mass audience appeal and good storytelling and journalism with a big J and all that, but they know the truth when they hear it. and they're not hearing the truth. And that's good to expose that. And I think people are waking up, and that is also good. So there's some good news here. And listen, if we do get a big debt reset, and I think we're going to, the good news is that the person in the White House is the right guy to be captaining the ship when this thing, strikes some rocks. Donald Trump's the guy to be captaining the ship, not Hillary Clinton, not her. No. I had a source of mine tell me that the day, remember Cliff High also said that Hillary would be missing. And I had a source of mine, a good source, that had people in the room and in the area, said, you know why she didn't show up at her own convention, right? She was angry and yelling and drinking and hollering and upset. And you know why she's upset, right? Not just because she lost. She knows she's in peril. Bill Clinton knows he's in peril. Robert Mueller knows he is in peril. He let Uranium One, with a 6-year investigation, he let that seal go through. He's supposed to protect the nation against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. James Comey is in peril. Debbie Wasserman Schultz is in peril. Andrew McCabe at the FBI in peril. Some of his underlings, Strzok in peril, Peter Strzok. All these people, John Kerry, I think he's in peril. He gave pallets of money to Iran. Loretta Lynch is in peril. There's a lot of people who should be going to jail, folks. This is not small. This is huge. This is unlike anything in American history, period, the end. And I'm not hyperventilating over it. And the good news, it's just being revealed. That's the good news. It's being revealed. So don't be scared. I don't want you to be scared and fearful and worrying. Don't do that. Don't be scared. Just be informed. Plan accordingly. Prepare yourself mentally, spiritually, physically, and above all, spiritually. Fear not. God the Father and His Son, Jesus Christ, are firmly in control. Thank you for supporting USA Watchdog with your comments and your donations. That helps us out. Have a nice weekend. And remember, fear not. Don't let these weasels take your chi and make you fearful and allow you to cower. If these people were so powerful, I said this to a friend of mine today, and I'll close with this. If these people were so powerful, they would come at you head on. They would reveal themselves. But they don't, because they're not. Thank you for supporting USAWatchdog.com.